I think the bigger question is what is a play? If you tag it in formation, does it count as another 3 or 4 plays, or is it still the same play? Because I think that is the question.
Mm, that's so good. That's very, very well said.
Zach, good to be back. A little later this week, I was out of town, so thanks for rescheduling. But I think we have a great topic. What do you think?
I I think so. I think when I look on YouTube and I read things on the internet about how many plays should you run, how many formations should you have, people have pretty strong opinions about that.
Yeah, it's real. It's very strong. The single wing guys, you got your sainted 6 or 8 or 10 or whatever. I think the double wing guys are similar.
Mhm.
Uh, so you can kind of lump power guys into that. Although I've gone the Melville route almost everything that I do in life, not just plays.
That's
Uh,
awesome.
I I have multiple and for some teams, so a lot,
Mhm.
36 or 48. I've had up to 48, which is 96 left and right. So it kind of goes back and forth, but it really depends on a lot of things. What do you think? What is your sweet spot?
Oh my gosh. I have used one formation in about 10 total plays in a season and had a good season for where I was.
Yep.
Then I've used, golly, a ton of formations, personnel groupings, and still like maybe about 15 plays, 20 plays.
Right.
But I think when you get above a certain number, you can't practice them enough. And
Yep.
then you get some diminishing returns on the execution of those plays.
There is that. So, there's so many I think I was sitting there, because my brain goes crazy about 2 hours before you and I talk and, like, am I
Mhm.
prepared? I'm such a
Right.
control freak. So I just started writing this deal out, and I've done this exercise before, and I think I sent you the Excel spreadsheet where I
Mhm.
just wrote down, like, this was kinda crazy. I just wrote down, like, every play I could think of that a quarterback, fullback, tailback, wingback, at a tight end or pass play
Mhm.
would run, and common ones that I see, and I came up in this Excel sheet, and I think I sent it to you. It was like
Mhm.
75 plays that you could somehow get into even one offensive formation maybe and run
Mhm.
those, and that's kinda crazy that that's there. Of course, I don't think I'm doing all of that, but that's if you went wild, you could do that, I guess.
And then how would you practice all that? How would you get all that practiced, I guess, would be my question, you know?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I'm not thinking of this as a youth coach. I'm thinking do pro teams? I know
Mhm.
John Gruden had this thing on his sideline sheet the other day, and it was 2 pages of, like, double legal pad size and what they were doing, and so I think there's probably that. I mean, these pro team
Mhm.
and NFL teams probably can go to that. Um, so I don't know. I mean, I know I have probably like 100 library of plays that I like,
Mm.
in
Mhm.
total that I've seen over the years. And then I probably love like what I call my sweet 16.
Mhm.
These are plays that I'm always running every year kind of thing. How
Mm.
about you? Are you kinda like that? Do you have this list that you like and then, "Yeah, I'm only gonna do that," I we can only get really to this and do it well.
Yeah, it's so interesting for me as a coach. That list has changed based upon where I've coached and then the personnel of each team.
Yep,
And I grew up in the wing tee, basically, or a variation of the wing tee, and then
right.
played pro style, some spread elements in college, and then coached wing tee, spread, and then it's just finding like what works for you in your program. And there's to me, there's different categories of plays. I went to a clinic one time and Ryan Day spoke about how he builds his offense. And it's basically the categories: what type of run, what type of pass, what type of play action, what type of trick
Right.
play, and that was really good to hear him break it down like that.
Yeah, that's cool. So I know some folks have asked us before. I've coached about 30 seasons in
Mm,
youth. Zach's coached youth, high school, and played college and that sort of thing. So if anybody,
mhm.
so in college, how many plays do you think you guys ran? Do you know?
Oh my gosh, we probably carried less than I've carried at the high school level. We we didn't do a whole lot, so we ran inside zone, a little bit of outside zone, power, like that was our run game, and then our
And you
passing
guys were
game.
successful, right?
Yeah, we finished my senior year at Liberty University. We finished 10-2. We were the number 14 ranked FCS school in the country,
Okay.
14 or
So
16, I forget, one of those. And then our passing game was it was either vertical stretch or horizontal stretch. So we ran a bunch of verticals, a bunch of spacing. We ran snag. We ran like drive concepts, smash, curl flat. It was very basic. And I think back now to it, man, you could teach that to a high school really easily. But we had Rashad Jennings as a tailback who ended up playing for the Raiders and the Jaguars and the
yeah.
Giants. So we just
So
gave him the ball a bunch.
that always helps.
We gave him the ball a bunch.
Not always. It doesn't matter what play you're running at that point. Just give him the ball.
Inside zone power, and we really didn't even run counter. We had it, but we never really
Why
ran
do you
it.
need it? I mean, if you've got super stud going on. So yeah.
Yeah.
So
What do you find when you've been really good? What have you
man,
found?
it has really been kind of all over the place. I mean, my
Mm,
first year it was very difficult. I found Beast. I was trying to run some Power Eye stuff. There may have
mm,
been 10 plays, and this was a 8-year-old group. So that was about right. And then we got to Beast. It was like about 4 or 5 plays that really worked. And we just focused on that. And we were just running people over. And I think that young age group is like base 8 and below, right? You've got 8 plays and below, and you really work on that. They really, I don't feel like 8-year-olds can really do much more than that. You may have 16 plays, but the plays you move into the game with and are always running are these 8, right? Or whatever the 8 are. I got to Colorado, and I will say, I think it depends on the area that you're in. I was in a very affluent Colorado area, Arvada, that was outside of Golden, and Colorado is affluent anyway and high education levels. And so I don't like to say this, but I mean, the kids were able to learn a lot more because of that, I guess, affluent and high education levels there. And so I was able with 8-year-olds through 10-year-olds, yeah, 10 before I moved back to Dallas, Fort Worth, they were able to handle a lot of plays, which was I think a bad thing to do at the time and learn, because it set me up for failure when I got to another area that wasn't as affluent or
mm.
highly educated area. But even then, I guess we ran 8 plays to 10 at 8, and then I think we got it up to 24. But it was the same team of players, and we just kept building season to season. So we were running beats the first season. Second season, we added some spin double wing from Dale Weiner.
Mm.
And then the third season, we added some Notre Dame box and single wing from not from Caesar, but from Dale Weiner, and then single wing box from Caesar. So that kind of total up to about 24 plays for a 10-year-old team. And that's probably about, I call that the core 24. That's probably what I usually run for a 10 plus team is about a core 24. So 8 for youngs. And then as if I keep that backfield, I'll add formations and like 8 plays for that formation so I can run series for that group of plays.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's
So
the word right there.
yeah.
Series is the
So
word.
there'll be like
That's it.
yeah, so there's like one offensive formation that'll have an 8 play, second will have an 8 play, third will have an 8 play. So there's a core. So that's how I get to 8 times 3 is 24. So they have that mix. So that's
Mhm.
kind of how I'm playing that.
Talk about your series. That's an interesting concept that I think has died some in the new age of football. But talk about your series a little bit for people that don't know what that is necessarily.
Yeah, that's a great question, and that's a big deal in the wing tee kind of stuff, even single wing and double wing guys. And I'm glad I came out of that kind of base. Is you want to set plays up, and so you're making the plays look very very similar, but they're hitting separate areas, so the defense doesn't know exactly what's occurring. Double wing and wing T is masterful at this because they've got all these guys spinning, and the Wiener spin offense that I was playing with was kind of a wing T double wing hybrid, and it was hitting, the quarterback sometimes would spin into the C, the orbit back is hitting D, E, the fullback's hitting A, or if the orbit back hits B, the quarterback goes to C, D. So there's backs hitting every kind of hole at once and maybe not leading. And so it's all this misdirection, but they're all looking the same. And then you hit this pass. And so and so that is the series. I know this came up in my forum the other day, and I said beast offense tip is run a series because everybody's like, what's a series on a beast offense? There's only one play. And I'm like, no, no. Well,
Oh,
if you don't really know more than that, then you don't really know. Oh, you only know what you know, right? So I said, well, my favorite series, and all these people now are like, oh, and defense are going, oh, here it is. We're going to get this series from Parker. First of all, I love to run left offense because usually their defenses, they protect the right side. And so I'm going to go beast left tank, which is my power play. Beast left tank for 2 plays. Really get that defense shifted and sucked. And so I'm setting this up. And somebody asked in the forum is like, well, what if you don't get 80 yards on those first 2 plays? And I'm like, well, that's kind of fine because that's what I'm trying to lull them into thinking that they've got it. They've overshifted. They've kind of got me set up. And usually when that happens, the middle wedge will be wide open for whatever reason. They leave
okay.
these 2 A gap kind of things open. So I'm set. So now I'll go beast left even wedge tackles. And most of the time, those coaches don't see the backs are still over there. I've moved into an even line, but I've moved heavier people into the middle, maybe switched out a center for a bigger guy, and then I'll run wedge down the middle, usually for 20 yards or a touchdown because they've overshifted. If that doesn't work because they've kind of stacked in this fourth play in this, because now I've really got the defense sucked, I'll hit the backside tight end pop pass because the defense now for 3 plays we've ran power and they've sucked in. So that really is when we're talking about series, that's what we're trying to do. And yes, I will take a hickey on that series to try to set up a play. And I think most coordinators will take a hickey trying to set their play up. What do you see this? Do you find that's the case too?
Oh my gosh. I remember at one of my stops, the defensive coordinator used to ask me, "What's the first play?" Early Friday morning at school, and I would always tell him, "I don't know yet." I was more of a feel person, so I'd watch the team warm up. We'd run plays in pregame, and then kind of just go through my process of what play is going to come first, based
Right.
upon the feel of our players, what I see of the other team when you finally see them live and in person, not just on film.
Yeah,
Then I
that's
would
a
go
big
from there. Um, I probably should have done more scripting, but that's just not how my brain works. I would get into a base play. Obviously, it was usually a run, unless we were throwing deep. It was either a run or a play action shot.
right.
And we threw one play action shot this one time, and we had a guy wide open and he dropped it. And he would have scored. And so, your second long, so you're running the ball there. But yeah, it's really interesting you talked about running your base play twice and then it sets up something. What helped you to learn that? Where did you learn that from?
Experience. I mean, it was really just experience playing with it and going, okay, this because like feel you're seeing it, and usually I will say on the beast tank we're usually getting our 3 yards. I mean, most of the time it's really hard for a team unless one of our coaches has gone to the other team or we've played this rival team that knows us really well, which we're friends with anyway because it's a youth league. So they'll be able to stop it. But most of the time, these teams don't stop. And so, we'll get our 3 yards and then beast tank. And then it was like, hmm, let's run the wedges. And what I found is like, oh, well, that thing is wide open after you're running tank because the defense has shifted. And we saw this early on before we called wedge. We would let the quarterback, the older, beast backs, not really quarterback, but the beast backs, when they know how to run it, they'll get up there and there's a whole video that I've got on how how to, if they stop the tank, what a beast back can do and look at all the different alternatives he has to pull off at the line of scrimmage. We'll usually see one of those A gaps wide open. They'll be, for whatever reason, one of them is open. And so we would let him just sneak that. We actually won a big playoff game, 99-yard play. He snuck that thing for 99 yards.
Oh
And
my
so he
gosh.
saw it. And so and we call that goofy if it goes backside or grenade if it goes front side. And so so we kept seeing that. I'm like, well, I should just call the wedge. I mean, I should just call a real, call the play and just call a wedge and make it happen. And then that started to work, of course. And then we always knew the pop pass on the backside worked because I knew that from the double wing. I mean, any
Mhm.
backside tight. I mean, it's everybody's looking this way and we hit the back. So I love for any formation or anything you're running that backside tight end pass. And if you guys are tight ends out there, tell your coach to put that play in. Because it's a huge audible for us. We have different routes we could run out of it. So we knew that play would run. So that's how we kind of came about with that series. And I will say that Volaton and Dale Wiener's spin and double wing stuff helped me learn the series action because they were really, because they're running 8 plays, so they really want
Mhm.
you to they want to set you up. So that kind of all came together for me over
Mhm.
probably about a 5-year period. And I know a lot of young coaches are like, why don't I know this yet? I think most young coaches need to. It's an experience thing, don't you think, Zach? That you kind of you can see it on paper, but it's you got to live it, and then it kind of comes into your blood, and especially calling plays as a coordinator, you really have to do it right.
You have to. To
There's
me,
no
it's
way
an
around
art.
it. It's
It's a
a oh my god,
feel.
yeah.
You gotta feel it. And yes, you can see it. You need to know what defense they're in and all those
Yeah.
things, but it's a feel of the flow of the game and how you're calling the plays, what you're trying to set up. If they can't stop something, just continue to run it. Don't
Oh,
run something different just because
yeah,
you want to.
and I know, and I've got to give credit to Coach Whit Green. I've coached and Dave Cox. Those are 2 coaches that I've coached with for a long time, but definitely Whit Green I've coached since 2009. Good friend of mine, and we're like brothers, especially on the football field. And he taught me that to just blindly keep running 25
Yes.
power. It's
Please just
if
keep doing it if
they
it's
do
working.
not stop it. Now, he might not, the one thing we in a Super Bowl, I think we ran 5 hole 15 times. We ran like 25 power lead, and then we ran beast tank power 15 straight times into the end zone for like 80 yards. And it was a thing of beauty.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of coach, and I put something out this week about embrace 5 yards, 3 to 5 yard plays, especially run plays at the youth level. I think a lot of younger coaches don't realize that, man, if they're going to give you this, keep why get it in the way of it, right? I mean, that's
Yeah.
eventually like when your enemy or your just starts doing bad things, just keep allowing it to, just pound it.
Yeah, you have to have something that you hang your hat on. And I think when you put an offense together, it's how many things can I install that are same as? So this play is the same as this play, but this is the difference for the back or the quarterback. But for your guys up front, it's the same as blank. And so you're getting multiple plays, but you're not teaching something new, which I think is key.
Yeah, I think there was a couple of things I wrote down here that kind of allow you to do some of these things. And the one thing that has allowed us to install a lot of things is that our kind of our base blocking, there's like 4 or 5, maybe 6 calls, but they know what those is, especially our base calls. So we're not really having to teach our linemen a heck of a lot there. There's not a lot of change for 80% of the plays. It's like this one jaw or gold kind of block we use a lot. And I think the same thing for us. We're a wing team. And so our wing is sealing, or he may kick out, or the fullback may kick because we're not pulling a lot and we're an unbalanced team. So in rec, I'm not getting a lot of pullers. So those guys kind of know the fullback knows he's going to kick or seal, and he knows those two blocks, or he may lead, right? And the wing back has got that. So kind of all of that is standardized. They kind of know what that is. So now I got 3 guys now that really have to be sharp. And then now I can do a lot of things with those 3 guys if they're, I think, what did I write down here? I think it was age, experience level, the amount of time that they've been in our system, and their football IQ, and are they competitive kids? And if you've got that, well, I can install 200 plays with that. I mean, I'm not going to do that, but I may. But it's like, oh, this because you standardize on this other stuff, then you've got this open. So it really comes down to this same kind of thing. And then you got a couple of smart kids that can do the little different things that the majority of players can. And that really opens up the playbook. What do you think about that? That's kind of how I think.
Yeah, I think if when you've streamlined your blocking rules
Yeah.
and those are simple, you can add things that are wrinkles, right? That are
Right.
window dressing, so to speak. And that allows you to expand your package, but it's something your players can understand and execute. Because I look at, the NFL, for example. So Sean McVay,
I
their
love
base
this stuff.
runs outside zone, right? So it's outside zone, then tags for outside zone, then the play action off of outside zone, which are multiple for them. Then they have their drop back passing game with different formations and their base pass plays, and they can tag those. So then you're getting to 100 or so plays in NFL on an NFL call sheet, but it's not like all these different, really
Right.
different concepts.
Right.
They're built into families.
And I'm so glad you brought that up because I wrote down here on my sheet when I was going through that same thought process. What's a new play versus a tag? Because I like to use tags or
Mhm,
just not try to change the whole play, but just say, oh, we're going to do this blue thing here. And so that
mhm.
actually gives me another play, but they don't. That's kind of like beast tight, wide, and double wide. The kids, once they understand that, they don't see that as a separate formation or the plays that it's occurring. It's all one thing because I've kind of tagged it versus it called it something different. And so I think that little mind game kind of works sometimes. What do you think about that? Because I think you agree with it when you just said that. I mean, there's a play and then there's these little tags.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I think about 2024, we ran a bunch of GT counter, and we ran it out of the eye, but we also ran it out of the gun. Then we ran it out of the gun with a read and a bubble RPO to the backside. Then we would fake to the tailback, and the quarterback would run it. So that's 1, 2, that's 3 different plays,
Plays out of kind of a thing you're calling one play.
1 play, and the offensive
Right.
line just knows it is GT counter, and
Yeah.
that's how you can build it to where, "Oh, now I have more volume," because I'm just presenting it differently. It's not like it's a
Right.
different play the aiming point's a little bit different out of the gun, but it's very,
But
very similar.
but yeah, you're really expecting I do expect the skill players to kind of figure, okay, this step is 45 or 30, or this is a 60-degree step for the quarterback, or this is a drop, and hey, you tailback, you're hitting the 4 hole versus the 0 or what. You've got to know your angles there and work on that. But But yeah, so I think that gets back to what's a play, what are the tags, and then what are the formation? Because so you may have 8 plays, but that could be 24 plays because of the tags of formations, right? But do you
Hmm.
consider this is where I this is the paradox for me. Is that 24 plays or is that 8 plays? I think that's what
Yeah, that's
we're all
interesting.
trying
Yeah.
to figure out what's the right answer on that, right?
Yeah, I think it's we don't have to confuse the coach on the sideline. We just have to try to confuse the players on the field. So, you know,
Confuse the players on the field.
because,
That is
the coach on the
confuse them that
sideline, if
it's
he's a good
really only
coach.
8.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, as long as we're giving some sort of allusion to the players on the field at some point if we need it, that's what we're looking for. Because the guy on the coach is gonna know what that is, but if the 10-year-old on the field can't figure it out, then you got it, and then you just keep going from there.
Yeah, I that's interesting. So I have this because I drew this out and was like, okay, here's the plays that I could run here. Because I think if I'm in an I and I'm hitting 2 4 6 8 versus I'm in a split backfield running 2 4 6 8, or I'm in kind of a, a fat cat weird two back kind of wildcat and I'm hitting 2 4 6 8. Are those all the same play or is that different plays? Because I call them different. I on the sheet they're different because it's Fat Cat 22, I 22, Wishbone 22. So I'm saying in a play sheet those are separate, but some people may consider that because in my brain I'm really thinking, well, that's one play because it's so easy. Because then it's a lead, no lead, or a power lead. Are those tags? I mean, this is where I'm getting
Y
like,
yeah, yeah, I
so
like
where
that.
do I go with this monster I'm creating?
I think it's
And then the counter, is it a counter lead? Is it a trap?
mhm,
Is it a wing back? Or is it, like
mm.
everything, I'm overcomplicating with you tonight, Zach.
No,
You're
I
gonna have to
like
tie
that.
me and control me down because I'm gonna
No,
go off
this
on the
this is
rails.
good because, somebody once told me years ago, "Plays are expensive, formations are
Patience.
cheap."
Right, right,
And it comes down to this is my where I kinda delineate. I don't wanna have so many more I don't wanna have so many formations to where I only run a couple plays out of each because when I was a defensive coordinator, when I would scout teams that were very predictable by formation, those are the easiest games because they're in this formation, they only run these plays. And we scouted teams that they only would either run the ball or pass the ball out of certain formations. And when you teach that to your players, they got it.
right,
And so I became less formations, more plays because now, okay, I'm in this formation. Well, I'm in this formation most of the game, but I can run all of my plays out of this. And that
right.
became my go-to for the last number of years.
So I've kind of gone a little different route. I mean, I'm always running beast because it's easy to install and
Mhm.
uh, I don't need a if my quarterback gets hurt, I've got a wildcat thing going on and beast tight wide and double wide. So I've kind of always got that. But and I'm running this fat cat, which is a stepchild kind of wildcat thing of the beast. It's kind of a single wing variation knockoff of a power eye thing too. And then I'll
Mhm.
run a spread kind of Dale Wiener spin thing, or I'll run a eye wing kind of pro thing going on. And so and each of them have like little 8 play sets. And I do that 8 plays because I don't want you what your defensive coordinator there's 4 plays and they know what I'm doing. So
Mhm.
and I've kind of forced that at if I've got a group at 10, definitely 11, 12, I'm going to force those 3 things. Because I personally feel like that I'm a defensive guy. A lot of people don't know that, but I'm kind of a defensive guy, actually. That's probably why I like all this power stuff. But I can shut down double wing and single wing kind of teams fairly easily, unless they're just overmatching us. And so I feel like a lot of teams may shut down one of my formations, which they do in Texas. One of our formations, somebody will have figured out, but they can't figure out all 3. in what I'm doing there. And so that's helped me to, okay, so today, whatever I've run against a coach that coached with us before, and beast, tight isn't really working. And I'm going to hit him with Fat Cat or the Dale Wiener spin stuff, which I call speed, which is kind of a combo double wing thing with volatile stuff. And so that's helped me, but I certainly can't do that at younger ages because the backs haven't been with us and they're not ready for that. And so I will stick with that base 8 kind of 12 plays ish there. That's work for us. But I'm definitely in the other camp of I've got 3 sets of 8. I'm going to make that occur if I can, if I've got the talent. Usually we've tried to draft kind of the kids that come into our league. We draft smarter kids over talent. I know a lot of guys are like, "What are you doing?" Well, because I can install a lot of stuff. Like we'll ask kids like I one of my favorite kids I ask, "What's the square root of 16?" He's the smartest quarterback I had. He
Oh,
was like in
geez.
4th grade. Yeah. He was a man, the yak. My
The
one of my
yak.
best beast backs. So yeah, we kinda look for that and draft for that because 'cause we're kind of this Tom Landry group. But I do know that I've had teams where, and we've talked about this before, where you try to get them to go, and then when they look at you deer in headlights, it doesn't work. So then I gotta go back to 8 plays, and that works too. I've been to a Super
Mhm.
Bowl with 8 plays, and I've been to a Super Bowl with 90 or 48 plays, left, right, 96 plays. So it really gets down to that talent level, I think, right?
Yeah, it
And
definitely
what you
does.
know how to coach.
Oh, yeah, what you know how to coach, and, like, what you're doing, you have 8 plays in those formations, so you can't somebody can't just say, "Oh, they only run these 2 plays." You
No,
have
no,
more of a volume to where, okay, now they have to make a read and know what's coming at them. So, you
yeah,
have a really good system there for that.
yeah, and the only system that's really hard is the spin one. There's a lot of moving pieces to that. So that one is the harder one to install. But all this downhill power stuff, I'm leading or double leading into each hole, and I got a counter and then a pass. So that's all fairly easy. And I think that's what coaches, when they look at how many plays or what they're going to install, is like how simple is the offense and what can you do there? And if really they all kind of look the same, are they really different formationally? Because I would say my fat cat and my eye wing stuff or power ice, those are all the same thing. They're just formationally different.
Yeah, you're just moving the checker pieces somewhere
Yeah,
else.
yeah. I'm just moving some skill players. And I think again, what's helped is the majority of the kids on the field, the blocking is all kind of standardized. It's all very similar. And so you're only working with 3 or 4 pieces that change there. And so that's where I've gotten away with that. And I know other coaches have told me, and I think this kind of comes in, and you made some guys have a knack to coach that. And people have told me I have this weird knack for that. So you've got to learn that, okay, I can do that or I can't. I'm not, you know, uh the kids aren't responding to that, right? I mean, have you seen coaches that are trying to install and it's kind of their way, the way they're talking or whatever isn't coming across? Because I think that happens sometimes when I watch some other coaches try to install things.
Mhm. I think you have to install what you see, what you can
That's
see
very
and
good, yeah.
call. I mean, I've always seen the run game well, and then the if you run the ball well, you only get a couple of different coverages. So you build your passing game with that.
Right.
It's either cover 0, cover 3, or cover 1 usually. And but if you can run the football, and that's what I've always seen well as a play caller is that piece is where we're going to run the ball, where's their weakness, either schematically or personnel wise, and we're going to exploit that as long as possible, and and
Right.
just keep doing it.
Right. The one thing is we can kind of take a joke here as I was writing down, formationally wrote down kind of a spread 1 by 1 kind of thing, and I had, kind of an 8-hole, uh, plays, and I listed those out. So I thought it was kind of interesting the play that you could run to the 8 hole. So you could have a no lead sweep,
Mhm,
you could have a sweep option pass,
mhm,
you could have a boot, which I think is nobody pulling with you. You could have a waggle, which is the 2 guards or that you pull the whole house with you. You could have a reverse, a double reverse, a jet sweep, an orbit sweep, a power sweep, and a counter. And then you can tag a bunch. So that's just like 9 or 10. That's actually 10 plays to the 8 hole. And this is where my brain is like, I'm only running 8 plays, but I can run 10 just to the 8 hole if I wanted, and then tag a that's not even pass plays yet, right? Of what you're gonna
right,
do to that
right,
side of the field. And I think this is where probably a lot of us why this is a big question, right?
mhm, mhm,
This is probably why this question is a big question is how many plays? Because just in an 8-hole play, I mean, if I added passes in there, I could easily get to 16 or 20 plays off
mhm,
that 8-hole right side. So, hmm,
mm. That is the question, though,
this
and
is
how
the
many do
mind
you
of a
carry?
football coach, man. This is why this stuff is I could talk about this stuff forever.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, I think it is, how do we build the offense to have enough plays to hit like the 8 hole or the 6 hole, but not too many to where we don't execute it well?
Right.
And man, that's the art of coaching. That's really when it comes what the expertise of the when the expertise of the coach comes into play.
Yeah,
How well can he teach
I
that?
think you just said it there. I've listed out 10, but we do 3 of those really well or 2, right? And it's like, okay, well, those are the 2 I'm sticking with here. So,
Mhm,
yeah, I think that really comes to play there. And then I think the tags, I was playing around with that. You got lead, power lead, no lead, counter, motion, that adds in all this separate stuff.
mhm.
So yeah, I think so really I wanted to ask you, you said you like to stick with your 8 plays or 10 or whatever. So if you were gonna add in all the little tags and all the little intricacies, really how many are 8 plays really? If you're going kind of playing this mind game now, right?
Yeah, I mean, shoot, my call sheet wasn't like between 70 and 90 usually. That's just where it falls because you gotta get all the formations
Yeah, you
in,
gotta get right.
you gotta get your plays in, any
So
kind of
so are you
motion you
saying
would have.
just so I heard you right, your 8 turned into 70.
Yeah, I mean,
Is that what
it's
okay, good.
70,
All right.
yeah,
All right.
because
So okay. So we all are getting there because I see other coaches, they say I do this, but when you look at their playbooks, they're like 40 plays. And I'm like, well, why did you draw up the 40? Because you've got this, but that's interesting. Yes. Okay. I feel good that I'm a Hemingway guy and you also are too. I'm a Melville guy, but you're Hemingway, but Hemingway's written more of what do they call it? The appendix. You got this long
appendix.
appendix in the back.
Yeah, because I think you have to have specialty plays,
Right.
and then you're gonna run your base stuff out of a couple different formations usually, and then you have the auxiliary plays to protect your base stuff,
Right.
which is play action, counters, reverses, whatever, and that adds up quick. I mean, that gets up there pretty quickly, uh, if as you start to put those on a call sheet or a wristband, however you call your plays.
Right. I think just so people know, I mean, like I said, I have these 48 plays and I probably have 100, even 500 plays in this library. But even if I have kind of got this group of guys and we've gotten to 48 plays or 24 core, really for game day, it's 12, right? Or
Mhm,
16.
mhm,
Game day, we're going to focus, okay, out of that library. And I think this is this will help a lot of folks because it helps me think of it too, is I may have like the 70 on that call sheet, but what are your top 12 for the opponent? And that's what Gruden had on his sheet, what his top 10 or 12 were that they were going to make sure they attack. And I think that's what you've got to look at. If you've got 8 or 100 or whatever that is what are the top plays on game day that you've worked in practice against this opponent's defense that you think are going to take advantage of them, right? That's where it's at, correct? Don't you think?
Yeah, no doubt. And if they don't stop it, like we said before, keep running it or keep
Right,
running that family of plays. And then you have
right.
your other sets for if they stop it, then you have
You
the other things you can go to that should take advantage of the look they're giving you.
right. Right. I think that's helped me is because I do like to run a lot of crazy stuff. It's fun to do that. I know I have to pull even though I run the everybody thinks Parker only runs the beast, and I'm so happy you think that. I really
Mhm.
am. I'm
Mhm.
really happy those are the only thing that's the only thing you do. But I do a lot of other things. I know I've had players' parents tell us they've come to our teams because we run a multiple offense and they'll be ready for high school. I know everybody gives me a lot of crap about when I coach, I'm not getting kids ready for high school, but in reality, like on the field in the game at our league, I'm doing a lot of multiple stuff that does prepare a lot of kids. And so I do want to say, even though you're running the T like maybe Zach, or you're running the beast like us, we're doing things in tags or formationally that are really preparing kids. I mean, I just watched, I think it was Iowa or Utah run a T in for a touchdown, and it was absolutely beautiful this past
Oh, it's
weekend.
beautiful.
And Dan Casey put it up here recently on, I think, X or Instagram, and it was just a beautiful thing to watch. And so I think all of this is part of football and coming back. And so yeah, there's that. So even though I'm multiple and I have a lot of plays, subset that's going to focus in on game day to make it happen is really what where I'm at. And if I don't have a talent or whatever, I'm running a very small set of plays to make sure we can do that.
Mhm. I
Any
think
other
too.
words of wisdom from you on this deal?
Oh my gosh. I think my favorite families of formation is double tight because that makes the defense balance up, and you can obviously go unbalanced with that,
Right.
but if you're gonna install an offense, you've gotta have double tight somewhere in there because that's something that allows you to divide the defense in half, and it makes it easier to call plays, and that's my opinion. That's something I really,
Yeah,
really
you
like.
no, you are correct, sir. Especially at the youth level, double tight really just I mean, if you're gonna start out, I like, double tight. I mean, everybody they see the high school stuff, they want to start out in the spread. It is awful hard to block 6 or 7 guys at the youth football level with 5. Like, even if you've got your
Mhm.
backs doing stuff, it's hard to open field shoot, I was a fullback. It's hard to open field block in
Yes,
in
it
a
is.
spread, and seal and trap some guys as from there, and then you're trying to make 9-year-olds do it. So, yeah, double double tight is I'd say any formation of double tight is a great way to start and then expand from there as, especially as a youth coach, and any coach really. I mean, especially because like we've been talking about, and I think we're seeing it in the NFL and in college, these 3-3-5 and 4-2-5 defenses do not know how to deal with that.
They're not built to handle that. That's not
E
what they're built to do.
Even though this defense that was against that team that Casey posted came down, and it looked like they were in a gap 8 or a 70.
Mhm.
What I find is so interesting, defensive coaches, listen up. Power teams wanna run to the C gap
All day, all
all
day.
day, and they had their tackle or their in or whatever they call him in that they had him in, and they left this C gap with a linebacker and in a corner there, and I'm like, "Well, that's getting chowed on," and he went, "Boom," and I'm like, "Oh,
Mhm.
dude, what the heck?" And it just told me that these coordinators don't know how to go back down to power to stop it.
It's It's so unique now because they don't see it very
Yeah,
often.
it's the new spread.
It's the
It
new
really
spread.
is
Absolutely.
the new spread, but yeah, we're getting off on a tangent. We like power football.
We
So
do.
so coaches, I guess if we haven't answered anything, I think we've beat this one to death, sort of, and we're back and forth, but leave comments, let us know. We'd love to hear from you. How many plays do you think need to be in a playbook? And what do you actually run? And I think the bigger question is what is a play? If you tag it in formation, does it count as another 3 or 4 plays, or is it still the same play? Because I think that is the question.
Mm, that's so good. That's very, very well said.
Cool, man. Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure, man, and it's always good to see you, and we'll be back again next week.
Sounds great. Talk to you later. Ciao.